All right, what's up, guys? You're listening to a late June edition of the SplashTag Podcast, and the last episode was like mid-April when the NBA playoffs were starting, and so a lot has obviously happened since. We've had a new NBA champion from another country, actually. Um, we've had some devastating injuries that are going to impact, the landscape of free agency, and I wish there's a lot I could talk about, but yesterday or 2 days ago, actually, this is being recorded on Saturday, June 22nd. 2 days ago was the NBA draft, and so I also recently just found out how to record podcasts remotely. So now I'm no longer confined to just having in-person conversations with Joe, and so I thought I'd bring on a friend of mine who's also a big fan of podcasts. So he and we actually talk a lot about the different podcasts that we listen to, such as some of the basketball podcasts on The Ringer, Jalen and Jacoby, etc. So without further ado, let me welcome on my guest, Jason. How you doing, man?
What up, man? I'm glad you opened up the box of remote podcasts, so I feel like your powers are unlimited now.
Absolutely. Like it's great. I feel like I love my guy Joe. He's my main partner in crime with this, but I think it's definitely nice to be able to have different perspectives because obviously every fan watches and observes the game a little bit differently and has different feels for what they value, what they project and so forth. So I think it's really really nice to at least get a little diversity of opinions. So um, I guess just so the audience um, can get a little more background information about you, like what like maybe if you could talk a little bit about like kind of how you got into like watching basketball, following it, just kind of who you root for, some of your favorite players, maybe like a quick minute or so.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I can trace my fandom of basketball all the way back to I think the Yao Ming days of the Houston Rockets, and that's kind of the team I'm repping. I remember watching the playoffs where they would constantly lose to the Utah Jazz or something, and I think Andre Karolinko would be wrecking us, and Tracy McGrady wouldn't be able to get past like the second round or something. But I think my favorite basketball moment has got to be the 13 points that Tracy McGrady put up on the Spurs in like 30 seconds or something, and just insane. I watch that at least once every couple months just to remind myself, like, wow, that was insane. It was insane, like 3-pointers after 3-pointers, 4-point play and stuff. So, I would say, I watch basketball because of just kind of things like that, things that you just would not expect, the outcome to be what it is based on, what you regularly see. So I watch it to see that amazing. And I'm actually now following a lot more of college basketball because I kind of like seeing the transition of players from college into the NBA and how their games evolve or how our opinions of them kind of change. So, glad to be a guest appearance. I guess the first guest appearance on the podcast. So it's an honor.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of like for the audience, I've known that Jason's a big Rockets fan. Didn't know it went all the way back to like 2005 with the Tracy McGrady.
Oh yeah, 2005. The dark years where we had Kevin Martin and Louis Scola as our leads. I still remember I think the year with Yao Ming where we won like 27 straight was just insane, and then we took the Lakers to 7.
In 2009. 2009, yeah. I remember that. Yao Ming got hurt. He didn't play in Game 7, right?
Hurt. He got hurt. Everyone got hurt. I think Game 7 was just like we were playing like backups and stuff, and we still took it to 7, which I thought was amazing.
Wow, that was 10 years ago. That was actually when I started following basketball. It's 2009. So just cool little wrinkle. So you mentioned earlier, talking about how you follow more college basketball now and seeing the transition of college players to the professionals. And I think that's a perfect segue to talk about, or to kind of highlight what we'll talk primarily about, and that is the NBA draft, which, like I said, happened very recently. But before we talk about the NBA draft, I just wanted to a fun little question. Did you catch any of the Damian Lillard and Marvin Bagley rap battle?
I actually saw Dame's diss track first, and thought it was pretty good. But I will say I actually respect Marvin Bagley's response back. And his rap was actually pretty good. He had a couple good lines calling, like, turn Dame Dollar to chump change. He made a reference to, I don't know if you remember the State Farm commercials that Dame had, where he was like,
Yeah.
he put his face on a baby, and I thought that was pretty clever. He kind of drawn up a little bit of a Adidas Puma beef, because you referenced like you're getting some shoes from Dame and switching over to Puma. So I gotta say I respect Bagley in this kind of beef, but I will say I think it was definitely planned between the two of them. Look, come on, the turnaround for Dame put out the diss, and then Bagley within like 24 hours came out with a response. Like, that definitely looks like something was a little bit planned.
Okay, I don't know. So I don't know if you know, but it started like on First Take that morning. So Max Kellerman asked Marvin Bagley if he was the best rapper in the NBA, and then he asked if he would battle Damian Lillard on First Take. So, and then a couple hours later, Marvin dropped some. So Marvin actually dropped the first track that was taking a shot at Dame, and then Dame dropped 2 tracks, and then Marvin responded with a 4th. Anyhow, no, for the most part I agree with you. I definitely didn't think Marvin was weak or anything, but I just thought Dame's track really, I found it to be like very, very superior.
Yeah, and I did a little background research. They've only played once in the regular season last year, and the Kings actually won. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bagley had like a double-double, even though Dame scored like 35, but the Kings did win. So, 1-0 Bagley, head to head.
Well, to me, in my book, it's 1-1.
All right. Yeah.
But anyhow, let's talk about the big event that happened 2 days ago, the NBA draft. So I watched the whole thing, start to finish. I know you were kind of following who was getting picked where and whatnot, and then kind of, texting me your reactions at the time. So just right off the bat, the standard question: who did you think was a win, walked away from the night a winner? And then on the other side of that, who do you think walked away more of a loser?
Well, in terms of winners, I would say team-wise, I really like what the Hawks did.
Yep.
Reddish plus Hunter, I think those are fantastic additions to the team. They're both players that can shoot. I think they really fit in. Now, if you look at the Luka trade, it's actually just basically they traded Luka Doncic, and in return they get Trae Young and Cam Reddish. So, I mean, I still would rather have Luka, but I think down the line it's going to even out a little bit with what we get from Trae and Reddish. I would also say I think Memphis low-key had a pretty good haul. They got Brandon Clark, John Morant. So I like what they're doing.
Dude, those are the first 2 teams I listed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you nailed it. I think the Luka trade, I think it'll be a trade where both sides actually walk away pretty happy. Even though I think the Mavs probably got the best player in the trade. So I'm with you there. And yeah, like you said about Memphis, like they essentially they obviously get their point guard of the future in Morant, but a lot of people were really high on Clark, just given his defensive versatility and the fact that he is like a top athlete. I know Jonathan Tjarks of The Ringer is a big fan, so that'll be really interesting to see him next to Jaren Jackson Jr., who had a really promising rookie season. So, I'm with you there. I really think the Hawks and the Grizzlies were 2 winners. Did you have any other kind of teams in mind? I have a list of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7.5 teams down as my winners.
Oh
I'm
my
curious.
goodness. I only had three. I had the
3?
Hawks in Memphis, and I just by looking at it, I like whatever the Spurs do anyway. Like
Okay.
I think Kelton Johnson, I think is a really good pick for them, and I don't really know much about their other pick from Croatia, Luka Samanic or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But I trust that the Spurs know what they're doing, and I think they definitely pick players for their system. So I mean, I'm curious to hear what your other 4.5 teams are. I don't know. It's really hard to kind of see what the fit is with a lot of these players because there's a lot of transition in terms of free agency and kind of where they fit. I think I would definitely want to look at summer league film to kind of see what how these guys play. Obviously, you can take a lot of those games with a grain of salt because you have a lot of like summer league kind of standouts that don't really make an impact in the league. But I definitely want to see these players on the court and see how they kind of fit before I can determine who's a winner or loser here.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So, I actually wrote the Spurs down as well, only because, like you said, I just trust their scouting and their player development. But I actually really like how I think they got really good value with the 29th pick in getting Keldon Johnson. That was the pick they got from the Kawhi trade.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that like Keldon Johnson should have gone before 29th in my opinion. So I think that's great value there. And I just think that the way watching him play, he played at a blue blood. He performed well at like one of the biggest stages in college basketball in Kentucky. He plays hard and he plays on both ends. Now he may not have like superstar potential, but the way I see it, he's like a guard version of Otto Porter is kind of the comparison I have for him. So I think the Spurs, if you're getting a guy who plays hard, plays on both ends, and can hit an open shot, and you're taking that guy 29th, and he has, the upside to be like a quality starter, I think you've done well for yourself. So that's why I put the Spurs down. I don't really know too much, like you said, about the Luka guy, but I feel like we should trust the Spurs with international guys. Although I was listening to a podcast and they mentioned that there might be too much of a craze to get guys named Luka in Europe.
Yeah.
Because apparently Jonathan Gavoni of ESPN and a couple other scouts like had this Luka guy going like in the second round, but then he went 19th. But like I said, if the Spurs want to reach, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
And I want to add too, like I think there is a pattern of, I mean, Kelton Johnson was like the third guy from Kentucky picked. The two guys in front of him, PJ Washington and Tyler Hero. I think Kelton might have a better career than the two guys picked in front of him because I just respect that he was the best player and kind of I would say the leader of Kentucky this past season, and it falls in the same kind of situation as like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from last year, right? He was kind of the alpha of the team, even though he wasn't the most highly rated prospect coming into Kentucky. So I like that pattern, and I'll put it out there. I think Kelton Johnson might actually be might have the best career of the three.
Interesting. I think he was the highest rated of the incoming freshmen. I don't know how we compare it to like PJ Washington because PJ Washington was a sophomore, but no, okay. I wouldn't find that scenario to be crazy if he ended up being the best of the three that got taken. I don't think there's anything crazy to that.
Yep.
And then for my other 4.5 winners, the half is New Orleans. It's really hard to lose when you have the first pick and you take a guy who everyone says is can't miss. So I really like that. I really like them taking Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 17. But I also like how David Griffin managed to convert Anthony Davis into this massive treasure chest of assets. But the reason I only put him half is because, like I said, it's hard to miss in this draft when you have number one. But the other part is I don't love their pick at 8. I understand the reasoning. They want like a rim running big, someone who has like Capella-like potential to be next to Zion so that Zion doesn't have to always, play center. and only so that Zion will only need to play center when they go really small. But I don't know. I don't know if I love Jackson Hayes at 8. I felt like he was incredibly raw in his year at Texas. I didn't see too much outside of what everyone else was seeing, which was this theoretical player he can become. That's just my take. So that's why I give New Orleans like half. I say they're like half of New Orleans was a winner. Half of their draft was a winner. Sorry. Yeah. How did you feel?
I agree. I think Jackson Hayes, he reminds me a lot of Clint Capella, and it took a long time for Clint Capella to kind of, bulk up and really become that rim running big. I think they drafted for fit, and that's what I had down as, prospects who kind of came into like a very ideal situation. So I agree. I mean, looking at the people drafted after, like you could have paired Zion with Cam Reddish, which I thought would have been good. Like you had the guy from France, Siku. Like yeah. I think he has a lot of good potential that I think, in the long term has more of a ceiling than Hayes. But I mean, yeah, I agree. Half star here, 1 thumbs up out of 2.
Yeah.
But I mean, you really can't go wrong with what they got from the Anthony Davis trade.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then my other 3, I'm not going to dive too deep, but I'd say maybe 1.5 thumbs up for Philadelphia, Chicago, and Miami. I thought they got good value out of all their picks. I guess now we can talk a little bit more about losers. I assume we're both going to mention Phoenix.
Yep.
I feel like this is, you don't need to listen to a basketball podcast to realize that Phoenix had unless they know someone good is signing with them, they had a very questionable day. Even before the draft, they traded TJ Warren and a pick for cash.
Yeah,
which I don't understand.
I think they were trying to move off of TJ Warren because he,
right.
his contract extension. But I mean, they made a mistake and they basically had to give up a pick just to kind of get off of that. That money.
And what's crazy is Indiana was able to parlay that pick into 3 second-round picks. So, yeah. But it's just weird to me because TJ Warren, he's on a very reasonable, he's like he's in that $10 to $12 million a year range. There's only 3 more years on it, and he's a competent NBA wing. So I don't understand why you're treating him like you have to attach a pick to get nothing, to get rid of him. Like, it doesn't. I understand you want to clear cap space and you want to move on from TJ Warren, but I don't know. To me, he doesn't. When I look at his situation and whatnot, I don't look at him as like a toxic contract. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you could get something better than cash considerations.
Yeah, and I think they're basically just trying to move off of some vets to make sure that the young players have shine to be able to get minutes and stuff. And they're put in a difficult position if TJ Warren's a good enough player to warrant playing time, but they just got so many other guys that they want to kind of get in there that I think the time for TJ Warren has kind of worn out because you know what you get from TJ Warren, but the people behind him, they definitely have a higher ceiling.
Speaking of people behind him with a higher ceiling, honestly, I would have tried to unload Josh Jackson.
That's true. Yeah, Josh Jackson. I don't know what would you get from him. And he was like a top 4 pick two years ago or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you give TJ Warren and Josh Jackson in a 2nd round pick, can't you at least fetch yourself like a 1st round pick from a team?
That's maybe a late first round pick, but maybe they still have some belief in him. He's still only like 22.
All I gotta say is, I don't know if
you saw that story about him.
Yeah, I was gonna say
got his daughter high.
I was gonna say I saw. I didn't see a very charming headline about him the other day.
Yeah. So I mean the guys behind TJ Warren. You got Josh Jackson on the team, Kelly Oubre, Mikal Bridges. Like those are all guys that I definitely think should get some significant playing time. That I think TJ Warren was just kind of holding them back.
So on that note, my problem with what the Suns did is they were the worst team in the West this year. They were full on tankapalooza. They get the 6th pick. They convert the 6th pick to move to 11, and then with 11, they take a guy who was supposed to go in the 20s, who plays the same position as all the guys you just listed: Josh Jackson, Mikal Bridges, Kelly Oubre, who's a free agent. Mikal Bridges, Josh Jackson. It's just the point being, I feel like Phoenix has a glut of wings to begin with, and they need a point guard, and yet they trade down to take a guy 10 spots too early who's a wing. I don't know. It's very head scratching to me. Very head scratching to me.
I will say though, I've seen Cameron Johnson play because they played against UVA a couple times in the last couple of years, and he's a big dude. Like he's a big dude who can shoot.
I think Cam Johnson is good, but I just think they're misvaluing where he was gonna get taken. Like, why can't you get him at 18?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, I think Cam Johnson could very well be in one of the 15 best players in this draft, but that doesn't mean you got to take him like way before he. It's kind of like when the Cavs took Tristan Thompson 4th in 2011. It was like you could have gotten him like 5 spots later. Why are you taking him at 4 when you could trade down, get another asset or two, and and then get the guy you want?
Yeah. But I will say they did pick up. If you look down later in the first round, they did end up picking, UVA great Ty Jerome, who I think literally is their only point guard on their roster.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Jerome pick. The 2 moves before that with trading TJ Warren and then trading down for a year of Dario Saric and then the 11th pick, I don't like at all.
That's true. Yeah.
Who else do you have as a loser? I have 3 other teams.
I really didn't have teams that were losers because I just had a couple players that I think are losers, and I think one that I want to point out is I think RJ Barrett got drafted in a bad kind of team environment because honestly his issues when he was in college was that he was very tunnel vision, would never pass the ball. There were so many times I was watching Duke games where RJ Barrett just went like
I think the tunnel vision. Yeah, I think the tunnel vision is a thing in crunch time.
That's true. Yeah. But there were just so many times where it was like, RJ, just make the simple pass. Like there was a guy open. You didn't have to go down into the lane and try to shoot a floater, a tough shot. And I think on the Knicks, it's only gonna kind of make that issue. Like he's not gonna have a push to change that mentality in the Knicks because there's just no one else that's good that plays with him. So he's gonna keep making the same mistake, and I don't think he's going to really correct that. So I think he got drafted in a bad team environment that I don't think he's going to improve dramatically over time.
I guess we have to see who the Knicks get in free agency, but yeah, I mean I can see that. I do think Fizdale's a good player development coach. Mm-hmm. I trust Fizdale. It'll be interesting to see him and Knox play together because. I feel like both of them are going to be obviously like wing guys who need development and are going to take a lot of shots. So, and I like Knox's potential, but it'll just be interesting because those are obviously the 2 most recent lottery picks that the Knicks have had. So that's what they're building around for the time being, unless they sign a big free agent. So I could see that. I personally didn't like. I guess this is a team and a player, but I don't like what the Celtics did on draft night. I don't like them taking Romeo. I just feel like I think you and I both think Kyrie's gone, right?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Okay. Al Horford's probably gone as well. So there goes all your, veteran leadership and, a guy who is willing to be a team first guy. So now you're building around Tatum. And what do I'm sure you and I both think Tatum, fantastic, incredibly gifted offensive player. A little bit of the RJ Barrett thing. He's definitely not looking to make the simple pass all the time, right? So you take that, he's the guy you're building around now. You have a point guard, most likely Marcus Smart, who is not like he's more of a defensive like a Patrick Beverley. He's not exactly a guy who's going to make guys around him better. So you pair that with Romeo Langford, who was a guy that showed that he's not a good shooter for a shooting guard. A guy who is a little bit like RJ, is a little bit of a chucker. I don't know. I don't love it. And you throw in the fact that their chemistry was totally off. I don't love that for Boston. I don't love that for Romeo. So that's one guy who comes to mind.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like they definitely should have traded up. I understand the need for a kind of a guard because I think that's something that they need not once that Kyrie's gone. But I would have liked them to kind of go up and try to see if they can get maybe even a Darius Garland or something.
Kobe White.
Yeah, or Kobe White, like guys that can shoot, maybe not necessarily pass super well, but I think they got enough kind of playmakers on the team that they don't need someone who's a fantastic passer, but they definitely need some shooting, especially if you're trying to pair Marcus Smart with someone. But honestly, yeah, like I think they were just drafting for need. I really, after Romeo Langford, I really didn't see anyone under that got drafted after that. I think the Celtics should have gotten. So I think they definitely. I mean, best case scenario, they should have traded up because I know they definitely have a lot of assets that they can kind of offload. But I mean, they needed a guard, and I think Romeo Langford was probably the best odd on the board.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely the best player available, which I guess I can't crap on if that's your strategy. Like, let's take the best player available. But I also feel like I still stand by believing that I don't think it's a good situation for Romeo.
Yep.
Yeah. On top of that, I actually don't like this might be an unpopular take. I don't like Garland on the Cavs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's an unpopular take. I think it's gonna be hard to mesh with. I think it's gonna be hard to mesh with Colin Sexton and Garland because they're both tiny guards. Like what Garland's like is listed on Wikipedia. There's 6'2". Colin Sexton's also about the same height. So you got, and people try to compare Garland and Sexton to like Lillard, CJ.
Yeah,
but,
I don't
see that. CJ is a bigger guard, and I think that kind of helps out, even though they're bad defensively. I think Darius and Colin Sexton are going to be even worse defensively than Lillard. And
the thing is, I definitely heard that the Cavs believe that they can get their own kind of Dame and CJ, but people don't like between Sexton and Garland. I don't see which one of them is the CJ per se, because CJ can create his own shot on all three levels, whereas like Sexton, I love kind of the aggression that he plays with, but I don't see him as much of a guy as, at least for now. We don't know what he can develop into, but for now, he's a little out of control, and he doesn't really create shots well for himself, beyond inside the paint.
Yeah, and honestly, I would have actually rather them taken Kobe White than Garland, because at least with Kobe White, you've got someone who's a little bit bigger. He's 6'5", and 6'5", he can shoot. He can shoot it, dude. He was wet from three when he was in North Carolina. So, maybe could be wrong. Garland could kind of pan out from his potential, because he got injured super early, so we really don't know what. We don't really have a lot of data or film on him, but I would have liked them to kind of pick White.
Yeah. I thought Culver would have been a nice fit in Cleveland, but if they were gonna go for a guard, I mean, I don't have too much of an opinion on Garland. I do think it was interesting that there was like a lot of buzz about him being the fourth best guy, like 2 weeks leading up to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting to me. The other move from Cleveland that I don't really love is I actually like them taking Dylan Windler at 26.
Oh, dude, that guy can ball. I watched one game of him in the NCAA tournament. He had the green light, and he was wet from three.
I love the pairing of Windler and John Beilein, but I don't like how they. I don't think it's a good. Okay. They took Kevin Porter. They traded for Kevin Porter Jr., who, what did we hear about Kevin Porter leading up to the draft? There were a lot of like red flags about just like off the court stuff and things of that nature. And so I think that if those are issues for him, like, does he love basketball and off the court troubles and whatnot? If those are issues, I think Cleveland is like one of the worst places a young player can go to.
Yeah, and it's like, again, he's gonna he's not a great distributor.
A
Got
little
really
bit
no
of tunnel vision.
a little bit of tunnel vision. I don't think there's a really good, veteran leadership unless you're pointing to Kevin Love to kind of lead the team and stuff. So, but I mean, I think I like what he is as a player. He could be like, people were comparing him to James Harden because he was a lefty who had a great ISO game. So I wouldn't say I like his basketball skills. I like what he brings to the table, but
Same.
yeah, I agree.
I don't think Cleveland. For me, the way I see it is like the organizations are based on you define an organization by seeing what happens at the top and then that trickles down. So for instance, the Knicks, James Dolan, trickles down, bad organization. Same goes for Cleveland. Dan Gilbert, trickles down, bad organization. Joe Lacob, Bob Myers at the top, trickles down, good organization. Daryl Morey, so the way I see it is like even if John Beilein, I think John Beilein's going to be a good player development coach, but I don't love the fact that you have an organization that has proven it doesn't really make good decisions. The locker room, sometimes the locker room is let's call it how it is. The locker room in Cleveland hasn't exactly been drama free. Last
exactly.
Even with LeBron, without LeBron, there's always something going on in Cleveland. So I don't love that for a guy who the knocks were like off the court stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just but like you said, I definitely think he's one of the better isolation scorers in the draft, but I don't know if that's the situation I would have put him on if I could handpick his situation. You got any other kind of quote losers that come to mind, or guys who you feel like ended up drafted by the wrong team?
Well, I mean, in terms of losers, I just feel so bad for Bol. he
was in there a long time.
He was in there for a while, and I think what made it worse was when they were interviewing him. Like, he was so dry, dude. Like, he just got basically embarrassed on TV, basically sitting there so long when he thought he was gonna go lottery, and now he's going late second round, and he just didn't have any fire. I would have been pissed or something hey, I'm gonna prove these people wrong. You guys are gonna see me. I'm gonna go to this organization. I'm gonna really turn around. Where did he end up? Miami, or did he get traded?
Denver.
Right. He got drafted in Miami, and now he's going to Denver. So they got him. They got Porter.
Interestingly,
I really hope to see him actually play some real significant NBA minutes, because I do like what he brings theoretically, because he's massive dude who can. He's got some handle, got some shooting.
A lot of red flags, though.
A lot of red flags, obviously, yes. But I mean, I want to root for him. He's a loser today, but I hope he gets a dub later.
I think he's a loser in what happened to him, but I do think he ended up in a good situation.
Right. Because he's got no pressure, right? He's basically there.
No pressure. Denver, I think I like what Mike Malone's done there.
Yep.
And on top of that, I think it's interesting that Denver in back-to-back years they've rolled the dice on a guy who was highly touted coming out of high school, but had a lot of injury concerns. Now, Bol, there's more than just the injury concerns, but I just think it's interesting taking Porter and then Bol. It's like if one of those works out, the Nuggets were already the second seed in the West. Have an MVP candidate in Jokic. I think that's an interesting. I like what the Nuggets did.
Yeah, and but the biggest red flag is not even just the health thing. I just just from his interview, this dude is just
I'm with you.
Interested, man.
And that's been a red flag since high school. It's does he just play because he's tall and his dad played? That's been a serious red flag from the scouts. Before we kind of close up talking about the draft, and I do have to pose a question. Do you think the Hawks are the new hipster team of the NBA?
Yeah, absolutely, man. They got so many players that I just like their game. Trae Young, Herter is really good. Now adding DeAndre, John Collins is good. Everyone, I love them individually, and I think the system is there. They could, end up becoming the Warriors of the East. They got their GM from the Warriors, so he's trying to set up that system. But I think they're still maybe a year or two away from really kind of being out there. But I'd love to kind of see where they end up.
Yeah, two quick points on that. Don't sleep on them taking Bruno Fernando in the second round. But
Hmm.
on top of that, I heard an interesting point from Zach Lowe saying right now they're the fun league pass, young up and coming Warriors East. But it will be interesting to see what happens when they're playing meaningful playoff basketball. In other words, I'm thinking very specifically about Trae Young. What was the biggest criticism of Trae Young coming out of college? It was his
It's
defense.
defense, right? Yeah.
Defense, right? And right now, he doesn't need to worry too much about that because they're not a contender. They're not pushing for the playoffs just yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when it's game 6. He's played 40 minutes. It's crunch time. Can he be, passable on defense in that moment? I think that's
I
going
mean,
to be
I think the thing is with him, he's got enough supporting and role players around him, especially since they added DeAndre. So literally, the next 4 players around him are all going to be either
right.
average or plus
They're
defenders.
trying
So
right.
I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue unless teams are going to play the pick and roll and just kind of try to isolate on him. But they've got enough guys in there that I think they play good enough help defense to be able to cover up some of his weaknesses. And
Sure.
he's
Sure.
definitely a plus. Even now, he's definitely a plus on the offensive end. That I think
Oh,
he comes out net positive.
absolutely. I just think that, and I want Trey to succeed. I was actually one of the few people that seemed to not sour on him heading into last year's draft, but I do think it's just an interesting point. Right now, it's happy-go-lucky. The Hawks are fun to watch, but I just think it'll be interesting to monitor like what happens as they transition into what they hope to be, which is contenders.
Right.
It's
Right.
because like even Steph, who people will say had his defensive weaknesses, Steph at least became a competent, smart defender. Like he was never gonna be a lockdown. He was not a lockdown defender, but he at least became smart and he knew his limitations and he played hard on that end, right?
Yep.
So even if teams, especially you look at a team like Houston or Cleveland that tried to consistently attack him, he at least ran. He would at least try. He hedged when he needed to, and he was always running on that end. He wasn't, doing this matador act that you see a lot of NBA superstars who take defensive plays off. So that's all I'm saying with regards to Trey. It'll be interesting to see how that progression happens for the Hawks. I guess last
and
question.
I mean, just the last thing about Trae Young, I just love how he's got like no fear. Like he will
He's
literally
got swag, dude. He's got swag.
will literally pull up anywhere, and it's very Steph like. So I'm a big believer in Trae Young. I'll buy up all that stock now and hold it and
I just want to
put that into the future.
I just want to say I've had Trae Young stock since December 2017 when he played USC. When he played USC in the Staples Center, I recognize that he was a smaller guard, but it wasn't even the shooting that made me like quote unquote buy all his stock. I actually just love how dynamic he is as a playmaker. Like he was making passes left hand, right hand, bounce pass, bullet pass. Like he was doing that. I think that's honestly one of his best skills. Like everyone's going to talk about the shooting and the pizzazz and the swagger that he has on offense, but I actually really think that it's his playmaking and his ability to just make everyone around him that a little bit better. Like I think that's what's going to be one of his most impactful like skills when it comes to like helping a team win.
Yeah, I agree.
Last question, I guess before we transition off of this, but New Orleans or Atlanta, who's the league pass team for next year?
Oh, it's got to be New Orleans, man. You got to see what Zion's doing. Like,
okay,
I think they have a fantastic team. You got Lonzo Ball throwing lots of Zion. You just can't wait for that. And they could be, surprisingly, I think they're going to be more competitive than
people
the
think.
Hawks because I think they've got some really solid players with Drew, especially being kind of a more established player. I think he's definitely more established than any player that's on the Hawks. And then you've got some really solid guys in Ingram and Ball that got added in, and don't sleep on Josh Hart too, because that's your sixth man there too. So they got some amazing depth. I'm guessing Jackson Hayes goes right into the starting lineup. I'm not really sure who else they have on their roster, but they also They
They're
might
trying
try
to
to sign
sign him.
someone because they also have some cap space too. So
Yeah.
don't sleep on New Orleans. I think they could be actually middle of the pack, or maybe even sneak into the playoffs.
Okay. I can see
Oh,
that.
and they even have Jaleel Okafor. Yeah, perfect, dude. You
Yeah.
can start him. Yeah, so I really like what New Orleans has built up right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Um, I guess transitioning off of the NBA draft, um, kind of like you touched upon earlier, like you mentioned earlier, you're a Rockets fan. The Rockets did not have a pick in the NBA draft. They did not trade for a pick. They did absolutely nothing during the NBA draft. And this is following weeks of reports about tension between Chris Paul and James Harden, rumors that Chris Paul didn't want to play there anymore. This was after Mike D'Antoni was offered a contract extension, and then either he walked away from it or the Rockets took that away. I frame all that to say, what you as a fan of this team, what is your perspective on just all the stuff that's been coming out the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit overblown. The beef between Chris Paul and Harden. I think they're both very alpha guys who want to be very competitive, and obviously the playoffs didn't end up the way that they wanted. But I will point out, I was listening to a podcast earlier this season with Chris Paul, and you could tell from the way he was just, his kind of the way he was talking about the team, it just wasn't the same as the year before where they had, Trevor Ariza and Babute, and they took the Warriors really close. And I think he just knew that this team did not have the chops to kind of stand up to that. And it's just, they got worse. The Warriors stayed basically the same, and I think that's kind of what clouded he already had kind of admitted defeat, in my opinion, to when he was talking when he was injured in the middle of the season. And I will point out, I was hearing a lot of rumors that the Rockets were actually trying to trade into the first round, I think early 20s, and it looks like they were probably trying to get Brandon Clark before he got drafted.
Ooh.
21, which I think would have been a fantastic pick, because that's your guy who could play the small ball five, and basically be able to switch and do all the things that they wanted Clint Capella to do and not give up too much on the defensive end.
I do like that idea. I mean that pick, if they were able to execute it, because he's got a little PJ Tucker in him in terms of just his defensive versatility.
Yeah, and I think he's a little bit bigger than PJ Tucker.
He's taller. He's definitely taller than PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker's actually like 6'5" or something like that.
Yeah, he's like 6'6", and Brandon Clark's like 6'8". So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I definitely agree in that I think they recognize that this year's team was not going to be as good as last year's team. I guess the next question I pose to you is, as a fan, do you think the source of the problem is Mike D'Antoni? Because, last year when they were best record in the NBA, best team in the NBA, and James Harden was going to win MVP, like Mike D'Antoni was getting all sorts of praise. He's unleashed James Harden, et cetera, et cetera. You fast forward a year, they don't get to the finals last year, and then they lose to the Warriors without Durant in Game 6. Do you think that it's D'Antoni's inability to quote unquote adjust and like adapt that is the problem, or do you think he's getting more blame than he deserves?
Well, I'll put it this way. I think the one thing that hampers the Rockets from success and being able to win a championship is not D'Antoni. I think it's just the cap structure they have right now. They just don't have enough wiggle room right now to improve as a team, because of, I think mostly it's because of Chris Paul's contract. And he's getting paid so much money that we really can't work too well under the cap to add on any additional players. I'm not really sure how they're going to do anything in free agency. They're hearing, you get rumors that they're trying to get Butler, but I feel like they'll have to give up a lot to get him.
That's to give up Chris Paul.
Yeah,
That's to get Butler. Yeah.
Basically, and I don't even think that's going to really move the needle, because I am still high on what you get from Chris Paul. Maybe not in the next 2 years, but for right now, I think he's still a very, very good player, top player in the league. So I would say, number one, things I'm worried about as a Rockets fan, I think it's just the cap situation and what we have set up with how can we actually improve, what's the path forward. And I think two is you're right. I think D'Antoni is not a good coach. Like I think he got a lot of credit for moving James Harden to the point guard position, but I think in a game, he's just not good at making adjustments. Or I really don't see him. Like I think the best coaches are ones that do make the adjustments, or basically I think they're drawing up plays and stuff, and the strategy game to game are very strong. I'm thinking like Brad Stevens and Greg Popovich, but I think D'Antoni is slow to kind of react to a lot of stuff. I don't like how he sticks to like a rotation of 7 or 8 guys. And I would not be upset if he ends up getting fired. I think the problem is if he gets fired, I don't know who will end up kind of taking over. I don't really see a lot of great NBA coaching people out there that I think can take over and really move the needle for the Rockets. So I would say overall as a Rocket fan, it's pretty sad because I think our window is slowly closing. I think we got maybe another chance this year, especially with the Warriors taking a step back with all the injuries. But the West is really tough. There's a lot of good teams. You got LeBron and the Lakers. You got the Nuggets. Everyone basically has improved, and I think the Rockets have stagnated a bit.
Yeah. Do you think do you think the way for the Rockets to win it all, do you think that it's going to the right style of play? Do you think the James Harden and the spread pick and roll is the right way to go about it? Or do you think that, stylistically they need to mix it up?
I think they got to mix it up. I think they were definitely, I think the last season, 17-18, a lot of teams weren't yet buying into the whole pace and space and, spreading out the floor, having shooters everywhere. But now it's become kind of difficult to even acquire players because everyone's kind of adopted that. Everyone's really looking for the 3D players. So it's getting more expensive to kind of pick them up. I mean, we got Bob Mute for like almost vet minimum, but someone with the skill set of Bob Mute now is definitely going to get paid even more. So I think in order to kind of improve, they got to kind of abandon a little bit of the ISO ball, and I really want to see them make a lot more passes and kind of get a good free flowing, offensive sets to get good shots for James Harden and some of the role players. I don't think necessarily everyone, calls out James Harden for being selfish and, it really impacts the team. I think the team understood that their best path forward was to have James Harden basically take over and run in. And I don't think everyone's kind of upset that they don't have opportunities to play offense and score the bucket. I think like PJ Tucker knew his role, Eric Gordon knew his role, and even Eric Gordon was able to get his own shots when, James Harden and Chris Paul were on the bench or they were taking a break on offense. So I don't think I think it's overblown that people are calling out the Rockets were playing too much iso ball, because I think it was necessary and
Sure.
That's what they needed to do to win. But I would love to see them move to more kind of free flowing, a lot more passing, better offensive sets and stuff, than just kind of have the ball, 14 seconds left on the clock, everyone spreads out and let James Harden try to get a shot. I don't think they should stop it completely, but I think they need to kind of mix it up.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. You're gonna call me crazy for saying this. You're gonna be shocked at the fact that I had the nerve to say this, but is it possible that let's fast forward maybe 2-3 years. Is it possible? Let's say 3 years. Let's say in 3 years Chris Paul is no longer in the team, and you're in those last years of prime James Harden. Is it crazy for me to suggest that maybe the kind of coach you're looking for Houston is a guy like Fred Hoiberg?
Fred Hoiberg. Oh my goodness.
Because I'm only gonna spend like 30 seconds on this, but I think he had a raw deal in Chicago. He was literally put in like the worst situation for him. I don't know, just kind of what you described, like someone who's able to make solid in-game adjustments and like game plan game to game and not be married to a single principle. I don't know. Just I always thought of Fred Hoiberg as a guy who's able to, break it down to something simple like a spread pick and roll, but then also have a little more of an octane offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest issue with Fred Hoiberg is I think he had the right system, he had the right kind of designs, but I don't think he has the presence to
I don't think he has the demeanor.
handle.
Yeah,
he doesn't have the presence to really handle, superstar players. Like James Harden is going to want to do what he wants to do, and I don't think Fred Hoiberg is has the kind of personality and that's just who he is, right? Some people are just not super.
He's a little more laid back,
alpha enough. Yeah, he's not super, alpha enough to kind of say like, oh, okay, like I understand you're a good player, but we have to use the system in order for us to kind of get to the finish line here. So I hope that doesn't happen.
I mean,
I hope we replace D'Antoni with someone else, but
I guess
really
maybe not. Maybe not Fred Hoiberg specifically, but the Fred Hoiberg light, like that younger guy who's a little more adaptable. I guess the problem always boils down to can you, the NBA, unlike college, it's about the players, So it's like at the end of the day, you need someone who James Harden will respect and listen to. So I get that, but I do like the idea of like a coach who schematically is a little more like a Fred Hoiberg, Brad Stevens. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, and honestly, if I were to take anyone from a young coach from the college ranks, I would think about the future of Chris Beard and what he's got going on in Texas Tech. He's found a lot of success in recent years, and I think he has some. I think he has the potential to make that jump from college to the NBA. As I think he was probably on the short list of college coaches that I think I want to see end up in the NBA.
Okay. This is, obviously tangentially, this is more of a tangent, but who's on that list of like college to end, like guys you could see succeeding college in the jump from college to the NBA? Because I have a couple people in mind, but I'm curious who you were thinking.
I can't really think of too many players, coaches off of that. I think Jay Wright
Jay Wright, yep.
Jay Wright. Honestly, I really got to kind of look at kind of the landscape, but I think it's hard to find a balance of coaches who I think are good college coaches, and I think they should remain in college. Mike at Duke and Roy Williams at UNC, but I can't really think of any others.
Juwan Howard. I know he hasn't coached a game yet, but
he hasn't coached a game. I kind of want to see.
Yeah,
I need a little bit more data to be able to make some conclusions here. I mean, the theory of him.
That he was an NBA assistant for 5 years or 6 years, so that I think helps his case. But yeah, just a little fun side thought. I think one guy people sleep on is Ed Cooley at Providence. I think he's a good X's and O's guy. I think he's a good X's and O's guy. Now he hasn't had like the rosters to find a lot of success at Providence. They made it to the tournament a bunch, but they haven't gone to the second weekend. But I do think that he's a really good X's and O's guy that in terms of an NBA, from an NBA standpoint, he's definitely got the schematic down. I don't know about like the command, like kind of what you were talking about in terms of like being able to like coach a star, but just a little.
And just looking at I just pulled up the best current college coaches. I mean, there are a lot of coaches at the top who, they're probably going to stay in college, and Mike, Tom Izzo, Tony Bennett, Roy Williams,
interestingly,
John Calipari.
I think Rick Pitino wants to go back to the NBA.
I think he's got a long path to get there. Anyway, is he still coaching in Europe right now?
He just ended. He just won the chip. He won the chip in Europe, and then he's. Yeah. What about
one person that I want to see just from this list? I think Buzz Williams. If he could get a chance.
Mike Bray.
Mike Bray. Nah, not really.
Okay. Interesting.
Not a super big fan. I've seen a lot of his teams in the ACC, and I'm not super impressed. I think what I want to see in a college coach is someone who obviously good X's and O's, but I think has experience, coaching superstar level players or players who end up becoming really good NBA players, because I think they understand what the mindset that goes into those players. And I think Buzz Williams is a good example. Like he coached
That actually
he was
is
there in
good.
Marquette when he had Jimmy Butler, right? And Jay Crowder, right? He's coached a lot of good NBA players who have end up having a lot of success. So
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I do like Buzz Williams as a coach. I I don't think he'll ever end up on the NBA radar, but like I think you bring up a good point. Like he's got the X's and O's down, but he does also have like the coaching, like able to deal with stars down. But yeah, that's actually a good point. Good candidate that I wish I'd thought of.
yeah. Well, now he's at A&M. I don't think I'm looking up his Wikipedia. He doesn't really have any coaching experience in the NBA, but I'm trying to think who else he's coached. I mean, he's coached a lot of good players in Virginia Tech, who could end up. Not sure if I can think of any Virginia Tech players who are big right now.
Well, Alexander Walker just went in the first round.
Yeah, I guess that's a big one, but we don't know yet if he's going to really succeed in the
That's true.
in the NBA. But yeah, I mean, he's coached Jimmy Butler, he's coached Jay Crowder.
Yeah. All right, we're approaching the hour, like the 60-minute mark, but one last thing I wanted to hit on was I think there's a couple, I want us to have quick, solid, little back and forth about players where essentially one of us is kind of buying high and the other one is selling low. So I want us to start with none other than Lonzo Ball.
Lonzo Ball, are you high or low?
So I think I do like him and Zion together in New Orleans, but I do not think he is going to reach. I don't think he's going to be an all-star in his career.
Yeah. I don't think his ceiling is all-star. I actually rather have D'Angelo Russell as compared to him if I was trying to set up and build a team. But I think fit-wise, he's got a really good place because him and Drew, like they're gonna build off of each other, right? And both of them can handle the ball pretty well. I mean, they're both going to be a very good defensive team, and I don't think the expectation is for Lonzo to be the alpha and be the best player, but I think he can end up becoming the third or fourth best player on the team, and I don't think that's something you should hold against him. I think that's a really good place to be if he were to. I see him cap out as maybe the third or fourth best player on a championship team, which I don't think is bad.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, dang, I thought we would disagree more there, but
I feel like a lot of our points we're kind of speaking in harmony here. So
yeah, okay. What
are some other ones?
Brandon Ingram?
Brandon Ingram, I'm selling.
I'm selling. Shit, I'm selling too. Shit.
Yeah, I think his health issue is something that people kind of sleep on. I think what he has is a pretty big type of health red flag.
Yeah. Okay. Shit, I really thought we would be there would be more Discord.
Well, I did a little bit of research, and there's three guys that I'm pretty big on. So I'll spit them out, and I'll see if you kind of disagree with me anywhere. But
okay.
I would say three guys that very low success. But if I were to buy stock in, I would be buying stock in Jamal Murray, Bradley Beal, and Jonathan Isaac. I'm a big believer in Jonathan Isaac. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, wait. Who's the first one?
Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray? I'm buying Jamal Murray stock. I think he's better than Ingram.
I think he is too. I think he's going to be an all-star next year.
Same.
I'm buying really high on Brad Beal.
So am I.
I like him over like Devin Booker, and I will say if Vucevic leaves, I think Jonathan Isaac is a good player. I think he's an all-star. I think he could sneak into all-star discussion. I just like what he brings. He's a good kid. I don't know if you saw that one video of him doing something at church, and he was like, I invited my teammates, and none of them showed up, and I was like, damn, that's brutal. But he seems like a hardworking guy who wants to get better, and he's got all the physical tools to be a great player.
Okay, so I don't have any strong disagreement there. I actually have one that I think you might disagree with me on. So, how do you feel about Malik Monk?
I'm selling on him, dude.
You're selling? Okay, I'm buying Malik Monk.
I just think he's got all the gift in the world, and he caps out at like a J.R. Smith.
Okay. I think that he's on the wrong. I think he's in the wrong. I think he's either in the wrong situation or he just needs one more year to kind of be a little more physically ready for the defensive side of the game. But I just think that in a league where shooting, being able to shoot and like score effectively and also do so without needing to like dribble is so valued. I just don't see a world in which a guy like Malik Monk who can hit tough shots, hit open shots, and do so without needing to pound the hell out of the ball isn't successful.
Yeah, but I feel like he's just kind of building off of that one game he had against UNC, right, where he just dropped when he was on
47.
He dropped like 47, and he just got super famous because of that. But I haven't really heard of him since. When he's drafted 2017.
17.
So
he's
he was
same as
on his second year yesterday, right?
Second year. I saw him live. I watched a lot of his college games. I always understood why there might be concerns about him on the defensive end because he's like kind of small. Like he's definitely not, he definitely needs to improve his strength per se. But what people don't realize about him is that he's actually like a really good athlete. Like I think he's got like a 40-inch vertical, something like crazy like that. He's like an explosive athlete is what people don't realize, but people just think about him as a shooter. But like I said, I think you pair that with the fact that he is able to hit. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to hit shots, right? So, so I don't know. I think that combination itself, it's like, and the worst case, he's a quality starter.
Yeah, but the thing is, what is the difference between Malik Monk and I'll compare it to like the UVA player, like Kyle Guy. Like, I think
he's okay. Yeah,
like he's more athletic than Kyle Guy, but I feel like you get basically the same skill sets in Kyle Guy as Malik Monk. So I would say their futures are basically, I would project them to have the same type of outcomes. And also, you're right. Kyle Guy did end up going to Sacramento, so props to you. You spoke it into existence. He wasn't drafted, but he did end up find his way into the Kings. How'd you actually? Sorry, this might be a tangent, but how'd you end up really like Kyle Guy on the Kings?
So I thought about a couple things. Some of these are like definitely not valid or like super valid ways of kind of rationales. But so the first thing I thought about was I know that Vlade Divac and the Kings, they'll either go for a European big man or they go for guys who were like in blue bloods / like really good college players. So I know that. I looked at you think about Vlade Divac and who he's drafted. He also likes, I really hope I don't get in trouble for this, but like he definitely likes Caucasian dudes who shoot the ball really well. On top of that, sure. I thought on top of that, this is more professional. You definitely, if you're gonna have De'Aaron Fox as your star, and by all accounts, I believe he is a superstar in the future. You want guys you want shooters. You want to surround him with shooters. So you want shooting. I don't know if they had enough shooting this past year with guys like Bagley and Barnes who are just like okay. And outside of Buddy Hield, I'm saying is Buddy Hield is like the perfect guy you want to pair with De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox downhill in attack mode, kicks it out to Buddy Hield. So you want more guys like Buddy. So I thought, okay, they could add some shooting. And the last thing is Kyle Guy's actually homies with De'Aaron Fox.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
They were homies because they were in the same class, both All-American, McDonald's All-American. So I know that they were. And then Kyle, when he used to have the man bun, I know that he said he would he had like I remember De'Aaron would say when he said that he had the best man bun, I remember, or the best hair in college basketball. I remember De'Aaron Fox replied to him. They had a fun little exchange on Twitter. So I knew they were homies, but yeah, I think all of that, and I was like, and the Kings have the 60th pick. I was like, oh, I think Kyle's going 60 to the Kings. Now he
I
ended up
see.
going like 55 or 50, yeah, 55, and then traded to the Kings. But I don't know. I just had a sense in me that he was Sacramento Brown.
Yeah. What as another tangent, but out of the three you know, players drafted from UVA, what are your kind of opinions on them, and who do you kind of compare them? I'll start off. I really like Ty Jerome on the Suns. I said this earlier, but I really think he could end up becoming like a Fred VanVleet type player who's just a smart guy who
Yeah,
can shoot the ball, and he plays big in Big Moan, and so
I think
I want to see his career end up going like a Fred VanVleet.
yeah. For Jerome, I see like a Grievous Vasquez if Vasquez didn't get hurt.
Mm,
See like
yeah.
I see like a healthy Grievous Vasquez in Ty Jerome, like a bigger guard who's not might not blow you away athletically in terms of his like explosiveness. Like he's not gonna have these like crazy highlights, but he's always gonna make like smart, tough plays, kind of like Van Fleet, like you said.
Yeah.
For DeAndre, I see him as like a Luol Deng with a little bit of young Kawhi,
Mm.
which I know people
Yeah,
are gonna
you
freak out.
hope some young Kawhi, yeah.
But I don't know, like he has a very similar frame as young Kawhi. Now that said, Kawhi was a little more like he had a little bit more of a first, like a little faster or more explosive of like a first step than DeAndre. DeAndre is like a little slower with regards to like just that first burst and like decision making, but I definitely see him as like a Luol Deng type, like a guy
Yeah.
who you know is going to be able to guard multiple positions. Um, not a selfish kind of me first type of player. You know, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be like worst case like like a 10-year NBA vet.
See, I project him more as a Marvin Williams. Like I
Marvin
think
Williams.
yeah,
Whoa.
because I think you never really expect Marvin Williams to kind of like put the ball on the floor, but I think he's a great role player. I think he fits schemes well. I mean, he might not be great now, but I think a couple of years ago he was like a really important figure on the Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think before that he was on the Hawks, right?
Yep. Oh, he was on the Jazz, and then he was drafted by the Hawks, and he was there for a while.
Yeah, yeah. So again, like I don't think DeAndre Hunter is gonna be a superstar. I've seen so much of him that I don't think he has all the tools, but I don't think he has like the alpha mentality that hey, I'm gonna take over this game.
Sure, which is why I compared him to Luol Deng.
Yeah, yeah. But I think Luol Deng and Kawhi they were more of like the first options on their teams. I guess
Was
maybe
Luol
not Luol. Well, he was
Derrick
kind of like the
Rose?
second, yeah, but he was like the second guy, and once
Yeah,
Derrick Rose kind of went down, it was basically like Luol
that's
Deng
true.
and
That's
no
true.
one else. So, but I don't see DeAndre saying like, all right, give me the ball. I'm the captain now. Like I'm leading the team. So, and
That's
it was
true.
really good that DeAndre had Kyle Guy and Jerome kind of being the alpha, so he didn't really have to take over. Even though so many times in the NCAA tournament they were like, Hunter, you are really good at basketball. Please take the rock and go ISO and get us a bucket because we need one
Yeah,
right now.
that's true. Random fun fact. Do you know what Marvin Williams' middle name is?
I don't know. It's probably something that's like a super white name.
No, it's Gay.
It's
Marvin Gay Williams. Wow,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that.
So and last, what do you think about Kyle Guy? What do you see kind of his
Ooh.
best comp?
I hate to do this because everyone's gonna say, "Oh, well, they're just white guys who could shoot," but like a slightly shorter, less physically ready JJ Redick
Really?
is
Okay.
is a little bit because like think about it, like at least when I watch JJ Redick on the Sixers, like what is he doing? He's running off the screens, he's consistently in motion, and then he barely dribbles, right? And that's his big skill, like that's his primary, value as an NBA player. I saw a very similar type of, you know, I see Kyle when he in when he was on offense is very similar type of style where he's running around screens. He's consistently in motion, and a lot of his shots, it's like he never dribbles more than 5 times.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would say I don't really like I think the shooting off screens. I think his best comp is Derek White. I mean, sorry, his best comp is JJ Redick. I think he's more of like a Derek White, hopefully like a Seth Curry type player.
Derek White on the Spurs.
Yeah, on the Spurs.
Oh, okay. I can't lie. I haven't watched a lot of Spurs.
Derek White, super. Yeah, but I think Derek White. I saw him in the playoffs. He was definitely ready for the moment. Super smart basketball player, and I'm not sure if you noticed this a lot in the games at UVA, but Kyle Guy has surprisingly some good finish around the rim.
Yeah, no, he's a yeah. No, I definitely noticed he has a solid layup package.
Yeah, he can even dunk. Like I think he was. People sleep on him. He was really athletic coming out of high school in Indiana. He was like dunking and stuff. And also another big factor, I think a lot of people have heard this mentioned on other podcasts, but he can rebound. Like he can rebound for his size a lot at UVA. I'm not sure if it's because of the system or anything, but I saw him go up there and get some big time rebounds.
That's
playing
true.
In big games. So that's
true. Yeah, I mean, well, first he's got to make the roster, but hopefully he does.
And I mean, I think UVA has a pretty good track record of at least having guys stay in the league. Like obviously Brogdon's comes to mind. Justin Anderson's been injured, or he's been on rosters, but I don't think he's had enough time to shine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you still remember London. I think London's still in the league.
Is he?
I think he was. Last I remember, he was on like the Cavs, but he's definitely G League right now.
Yeah. Oh, now he's in France.
Well, yeah, but I think he's gonna get invited back to Summer League,
he was on the G League.
So I really hope London ends up getting a spot in the league, but he's just I think he's just too short. I think he's just not.
He's the same height as Kyle, interestingly, but
I think he's 6 foot, dude. Kyle's like 6'2",
I do think they might have inflated his height.
That's true.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but my first day of class ever in college, I was just like walking out of a class, and then I saw London, and the problem was like he looked so small on TV, and yet he was like my height ish. He was a little shorter than me. It's hard to tell with his hair, but and so I like had to squint, and I was like, "Yo, London?" I wasn't like 100% sure it was him, and I didn't want to get. So I was just like, "Yo, London," and then he was like, "Yo, what's up, bro?" And then like I dapped him up.
Nice, dude.
Class. And then I was like, "Yo, this is normally I just kind of normally when I walk by basketball players, I just like keep it moving because like it's nothing. I recognize I don't try to make it like a celebrity sighting for you know what I mean like but interestingly that it was like the first time I had like run into a basketball player, and he obviously he was pretty well known in the college ranks, so I was like, yo, could I like snap a picture with you? And then he was like, sorry, bro, I'm late to class, bro, but it's on me, bro. And then he just walked away. So that was my London Prentice story.
Yeah, much love for London, dude. I still remember him crying at the end of the game against I think Oregon in the end. Oh, Florida, sorry.
Yeah.
Florida, where we got knocked out of the NCAA tournament. He played super bad that game.
The whole team was bad that game.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, okay, we're hitting about the 75-minute mark. So I don't know, just any parting thoughts?
No, I think we covered a lot. I actually really want to be able to go to Summer League. It's on 4th of July weekend, so I might see if I can try to fly out to Las Vegas.
Ooh.
But I think I got plans and stuff. Hey, man, if you're interested in going to Summer League, let me know, dude, because I think it's a pretty good flight to Las Vegas, and it's cheap there. And and I think tickets aren't that expensive. It's hot. But
it's hot
I think
but that's why you're indoors. That's why you're indoors for basketball.
Yeah, and I feel like going to watch Summer League is kind of the same as like me watching the ACC tournament up in New York when Virginia won. It was a lot of basketball, but I think you really get to see a lot of players up close.
I definitely want to go to summer league at some point. I don't know when, but I definitely because I watch summer league every year. I just love, like you said, like the fact that it's like this. You have so many games, and it's summer league's like the closest you get to like just like pickup basketball per se. So you can really
Hmm.
see like it really is like anyone can shine. So it's like, oh, you were the first pick, but I'm undrafted, but like honestly, those are like the best matchups to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
and
like,
honestly, it's a good way. It's a good way to kind of see the transition of, college players, how their game translates to more
yeah,
of an NBA setting. So it's a really good way to kind of understand what what skills kind of transfer and how players perform based on the environment that they're in.
yeah. And this year I think this is the first year where they've scrapped all the other secondary summer leagues. Like there used to
Yeah,
be
it's
Orlando
all
and
going to be in
Utah,
Las.
and now
Yeah,
it's all
it's
Vegas,
all
which is
going to
nice.
Vegas, which is
Which is
sick. So
nice.
yeah,
But
definitely, definitely, I'm super interested if you're down to hit up summer league at some point in the future.
yeah, we should definitely I'll definitely have you back on for a pod to debrief summer league
Yeah, but I
and
don't think I'll be able to watch summer league like during the
as
week. But
during the
I'll
week.
try to see if
Yeah,
I can.
that's fair.
Yeah, just try to see if I can catch the
And
highlights and stuff.
you know, there's obviously free agency coming up, so
Yeah, and there used
yeah.
to actually be a Reddit post on or a Reddit sub about summer league where this guy used to write a lot of good observations, just quick observations from a lot of the games. So
Yeah, that's cool. No, I definitely want to kind of break down a little more of the summer league. Obviously not value it too much, but it's
yeah, but I
definitely
mean, just kind of I like making the observations of like, oh, like this
absolutely,
person was
Abs-
surprising.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so yeah, that'll wrap this episode of the SplashTag Podcast up. I want to once again thank my guest Jason for joining me, and I want to thank everyone for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe either on YouTube or through the podcast app on iTunes, and I'll catch you guys soon.
Yep, glad to be on.